morning sun shines on the gleaming hide of a muscular ranch horse. The aroma of bacon and coffee drifts from the wood cook stove at a cow camp. Silver spurs jingle as the men and women of the West get set for another day in the saddle. From the heart of Canada's finest ranching country, this is the Spirit of the West with rancher and horse trainer Hugh McLennan and his collection of music, poetry, and conversations with the folks who live and work with horses and cattle in the Spirit of the West.
Well, I had a chance to ride with some good hands on good horses this week, and they had good cow dogs, and boy, that made our job easier. Now, cow dogs all have personalities, and as you'll hear from Gary Westergaard this week, things go better when you understand them.
Jerry and I were kind of riding close together, and Jerry said, "Don't laugh at him. Don't even look at him. Don't let on that you've seen that happen." Because he said, if he thinks you're making fun of him, he won't work for the rest of the day.
Went out to renew our truck insurance this week, and it went a lot better than the guy Baxter Black talks about.
What difference does it make if it's a raccoon or a house cat or an elephant seal or a smoked ham? He still dropped it on my windshield.
On the Rangeland news, which way are cattle prices heading?
Does this indicate an impending contraction of the herd?
You really can't tell.
In the cowboy poetry spotlight, a guy that I could listen to all day long, Rodney Nelson.
"Come on, Dad, let me down. This really isn't fair." Then he'd point the teeth towards the ground. Leave me dangling in the air.
On the Urban Saddles and Western Wear horse training file, a listener's having some trouble getting her horse to side pass correctly, so I'll tell you what works for me. Legendary horseman and cowboy Gary Westergaard is back this week, and we'll talk about our memories of some great cowboys who've ridden across the Great Divide after Ranger Doug Green of Riders in the Sky leads us out the gate.
I'm gonna ride where the wild winds blow me. I'm gonna go where nobody knows me. I'm gonna gallop across the plains to a wide open range where no fences grow to enclose me. Cast my worries to the wind and watch them scatter. Toss the troubles from my shoulders, they don't matter. Maybe just around the bend I'll find the rainbow's end, and no one that I leave will be the sadder. I'm gonna ride the sky away out yonder, through canyon walls to mountains tall. I'm bound to wander. The sundown hills are turning blue on the horizon. They've been calling for so long, I'm realizing. And I'll sleep beneath the sky to a coyote's lullaby till I greet the morning sun as he comes rising. I'm gonna ride in the sky away out yonder, through canyon walls to mountains tall and waterfalls. I'm bound to wander. The sundown hills are turning blue on the horizon. They've been calling for so long, I'm realizing. And I'll sleep beneath the sky to a coyote's lullaby till I greet the morning sun as he comes rising. Till I greet the morning sun as he comes rising.
Well, we may have been in a hotel room in Dublin, Ireland, but Gary Westergaard and I were talking about good horses and good cowboys back home.
Amazing, so many of the same people that we've kind of come across at times.
Yeah. And then there was old Dennis Sam. I worked out of his arena for 4.5 years. He was one of the most respected men in the whole valley. Yeah. He was quite the man. I remember one morning I went out to help him with we were gathering cattle in the fall, and we left it about 5:30, 6 in the morning. We rode out, and here's old Dennis. He's got to be up in his late 70s, early 80s maybe, and we rode up in that high country all day, up and down those hills that behind his place, and probably got home 3:30, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I went home and had a little snooze and something to eat, and then I came back to ride a few horses in the evening, and when I got back, old Dennis is out baling hay till dark.
Oh my gosh. Gilrick was a good buddy of Red Allison. Did you ever know Red Allison? He's from Clinton.
No, I didn't know him, but I knew him.
Anybody that's been in the cattle business or the cowboy in central BC has probably heard of Red.
Yeah.
Mark just got an email day before yesterday that Red passed away just a couple of days ago. He was 93, I think, and he was staying in a residence. And about 3 weeks ago, he drove all the way up to Williams Lake for something all by himself, still driving, and he was doing pretty well. But there's another legend gone. But I rode with Red and Gint on the Kamloops cattle drive that we had for several years. We're both three of us in the drover crew. And those guys were amazing. Dick Threkold was another one. And these guys are all way up in their 70s by this time. Yeah. And, we'd start at 3:30 in the morning. We'd have our breakfast at the caterer would have kind of like a chuck wagon. And we'd ride out just in the first streak of daylight to pick up the cattle where we'd left them and rendezvous with all the rest of the riders, a couple hours later. And we'd get in. We were the first ones into camp, but it'd be 4 o'clock in the afternoon before we were in there. And then we'd have supper about 6. By then, I was looking for my tent, about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. And these guys were at the beer garden till 11, 12 o'clock midnight. And 3:30 the next morning, they were up and ready to go. I don't know how they did that.
I know they were quite a bunch of people.
Oh, yeah. Quality people.
A good cow dog, his name was Spike, and Gary has his story when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Gary Westergaard has put in more miles in the saddle than some folks have in their cars. He's a successful breeder and trainer of top horses from cutting to jumping and dressage. And it was so nice to have a little time to visit with him when he and his wife Pat joined us on our Spirit of the West cruise to the British Isles.
My old foreman at the Portland Cow Camp, Jerry Matheson was his name. And I remember the first day I rode out with him, the first morning, he had a dog called Spike. He was a Heeler Coldy cross of some kind, like all those dogs out there. And this dog, he'd stay right behind Jerry's horse, and until there was some work for him to do, and we were starting to shape up this herd of cattle to send them up the trail, and the dog run in and nipped this cow, and this cow kicked him in the side of the face, and he kind of yiped, and then he stepped back, and Jerry and I were kind of riding close together, and Jerry said, "Don't laugh at him. Don't even look at him. Don't let on that you've seen that happen, because he said if he thinks you're making fun of him, he won't work for the rest of the day." And he kind of looked at us for a little while, and then when we ignored him, then he went back in there and went to work. But
You're kind of sensitive that way.
Oh yes, yeah. He was kind of crotchety, just like his like his owner.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
There are some good dog men in that part of the country too. Good hands with dogs.
Stan Murphy, that was the one that stands out in my mind. Of course, he was from Australia, so he knew how to work these dogs. But he could have 2 or 3 dogs. It seemed like they'd be a couple hundred yards away from him, up on the hill, and they'd be watching every move. And like they say, a man and his dog is worth three riders.
If the dog is good.
Yeah, if the dog is good, yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
Did you ever, this may have been a little after you were there, but did you ever come across Bo Sherman in there? He was a pickup, well, a darn good cowboy, and him and Archie Williams were the best rodeo pickup team I think I ever watched. And Bo was at the Palmer Field for Garthwaite's, just north of Keyshawn's.
Yeah.
Little ways there for quite a while. Now he's one of the head wranglers on the Heartland TV series.
I didn't know him personally. I'd seen him at rodeos and that, but no, I didn't know him personally.
We'll get back to the conversation with one of the most bizarre true stories you may ever hear. And something that sure falls easy on the ears. Nice twin fiddles, good cowboy band, and the voice of Kimmy Hudson here.
The sky is always clearer and the sun shines like a friend. Lakes that shine like mirrors and ripple in the wind. The prairie rolls forever and the roundup never ends. And you just know the good Lord's smiling when the cowboys sing again. Mountains reach up to the sky, lazy rivers roll, cattle graze in hidden valleys beside the buffalo. The air still smells of freedom and the hero always wins. And you just know the good Lord's smiling when the cowboys sing again. Cowboys round the campfire, striking all familiar chords. Voices drifting higher and higher, lifted to the Lord. Cowboys round the campfire, striking all familiar chords. Voices drifting higher and higher, lifted to the Lord. Mountains reach up to the sky, lazy rivers roll, cattle graze in hidden valleys beside the buffalo. The air still smells of freedom and the hero always wins. And you just know the good Lord's smiling when the cowboys sing again. And you just know the good Lord's smiling when
Well, when Gary Westergaard told a group of us this next story as we sat around the table in the dining room of the Crown Princess, there were more than a few raised eyebrows. There's another story. I think it concerns kind of a wake for a Indian fella that something had happened and he passed away. And how did that go?
Oh, yes, that was for a young fellow out there. Him and some of his teenage friends, they were partying a little bit too much one weekend, and as the story goes, he got bucked off a horse or fell off a horse or whatever, and got hurt pretty bad, and he laid out in the hayfield there, I guess, for the night, and through complications from this whole experience, well, then he passed away. So the way it worked out, well, they were having a wake for him at the Spockman Reserve, and my foreman and I, we went up to pay our respects, and we get there, and there's quite a few people in the house and around the yard and everything, and so I'm getting a cup of coffee, and the mother and father, they asked me to come in and have a look at their son, the deceased fellow. So sure, so I went in there into the front room, and here the casket is sitting on two chairs, and there he's the fellow that's passed away. He looks very, very serene. He's well dressed, white Western shirt and blue jeans, and his black cowboy hat sitting on his chest and his arms crossed. And this is how do you look, or how do you think he looks, Gary? And I said, oh, he looks great to me. So then that was fine, and I carried on, and we moved around through the crowd, and I was out in the kitchen talking for a while, and then I happened to go in the front room, and here they have him sitting up in the casket. And he's got his cowboy hat on, and
On his head now.
On his head, oh yes, and then he's got a cigarette stuck in the corner of his mouth, and they're talking to him just like he's alive and that. And then I thought this was a little bit out of the ordinary, so I tried to ignore it for a while, and then I happened to come back and look again, and now they've got him sitting on the Chesterfield. And he's not only got a cigarette in his mouth, but he's holding a beer in his hand, and the young people, his friends, they're sitting there talking to him, and wishing him all the best in his new life or whatever. And then it come time for us to go, so we left, and then a couple of days later, I was talking to another person that had been there, and I made some mention about this unique situation, and he said, it got a little bit out of hand after you left. Somehow the poor fellow ended up laying on the floor, but then by the time they started to slow the procedure down, well, then they got him gathered up and back in the casket, and then they carried on.
Well, coming up, Baxter Black describes one of the stranger ranch truck insurance claims ever, and the Rangeland News looks at everything from cattle markets to counterfeit meat, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com.
Howdy, friends. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, and I'll be right back after this with a little peek at Bald Eagle Insurance.
Your land is a legacy, a challenge from those who tended it before you to build on their foundations. At Corteva Agriscience, we understand what it means to be the stewards of a legacy. We embrace the challenge of building on the foundation of Dow AgroSciences to maintain your trust, to bring new solutions, to help you care for your land. See how we can help build your legacy at rangeandpasture.com.
And for our Canadian listeners, just check corteva.ca, the Canadian website.
The Madison River of western Montana is a beautiful spot, made all the more magnificent by the soaring bald eagles that fish its swift current. Raul, who had been herding sheep that fall, was on his way to the Bozeman airport to take the long plane ride to his home in Peru. Ross, his boss, was driving him. They were sailing down a long gravel stretch when they spotted a bald eagle in the middle of the road. He was tearing at carrion of some kind. Ross started slowing as the eagle looked up. Grasping the remnants of a large raccoon, the mighty bird lifted off in front of the oncoming pickup and disappeared up and out of their view. Suddenly, the windshield exploded. The glass shattered. Blood and fur filled their field of vision. They swerved to a stop. The remains of the now double roadkill victim spread across the hood. 2 hours later, with Raul safely delivered to the airport, Ross called his insurance agent. He explained Raul, the sheep, the eagle, the raccoon, and the windshield. The insurance agent nearly turned blue from laughing. Through gasps for breath, he asked the frustrated Ross if there were any witnesses. Yeah, he said, Raul, who's now at 35,000 feet, him and a border collie pup. Well, the insurance agent was unable to answer. The line went dead. Ross jumped in his damaged vehicle and drove down to the insurance office, stormed in to find the agent recovered enough to be telling his story to someone over the phone. Laughter tinkled over the lines. After terse greetings, Ross had the agent out in the parking lot examining the windshield. "Did you bring the raccoon?" asked the agent. "No raccoon," said Ross. "Just the broken windshield, and enough blood and gore and hair stuck to the hood that if it was necessary to prove it was a raccoon, we could scrape off a spatula full, run it down to the Dairy Queen, and check its DNA. Besides, what difference does it make if it's a raccoon or a house cat or an elephant seal or a smoked ham? He still dropped it on my windshield." "Well," said the agent, I just have to be sure. Your policy doesn't cover matters of national security like enemy attacks or bombings and such." Ross gave him a hard look. "But," conceded the agent warily, I don't think that applies in your case. This is Baxter Black on Spirit of the West with Hugh McLennan, brought to you by Corteva Agri-Science.
Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Well, if you ever drive through the town of Cochrane, Alberta, just west of Calgary, and we have many times, you'll find a road called the George Fox Trail, named after the son of ranchers Bert and Gert Fox. Their son George now lives in southern Ontario with his wife and 2 daughters, but he's written some fine songs over the years and lots of them big sellers, including this one.
Riding tall in the saddle, head high and legs bowed, pushing 200 cattle down an old gravel road. Hey, that's a man you call Mister. He's known around these parts for chasing wild horses, breaking wild hearts. Here's hoping there'll always be a cowboy on a long distance ride under wide open sky. His hands never step on the reins. He knows enough about cattle to know sometimes it's a battle. He never says a lot about a little pain. Here's hoping there'll always be a cowboy. He's got a pail of hot water and sleep in his eyes. There's a heifer down calving, she picked Well, he works every muscle to pull the calf out alive. He sees something precious in that new mother's eyes. Here's hoping there'll always be a cowboy riding herd through the night, and come morning light, his work's just begun for the day. A job he can't get away from on a Sunday to pray some, but the Lord knows he's never gonna stray. Here's hoping there'll always be a cowboy. Came down from the city, I said I'd arrive at the ranch before daybreak for his last cattle drive. Well, my father's getting older, that's understood, but he still breaks horses like I never could. Here's hoping there'll always be a cowboy.
The news of the Rangeland, a roundup of news and coming events from around the West.
The number of cattle placed in feedlots last month is really down, and analysts are wondering why. Gary Crawford has the story.
The first month that the U.S. cattle on feed inventory was smaller than the year before since October of 2014. That's what Friday's USDA cattle feedlot report shows. Now, the September 1st inventory was not much smaller than 2018, down only 1% at 11 million head. Feedlot placements in August down 9% from August a year ago. So does this indicate an impending contraction of the herd?
You really can't tell.
USDA livestock analyst Shale Shagam explains why.
Part of it's going to depend on what cow-calf operators are looking at. At the moment, their margins are weak to negative. So in that respect, you're getting a signal that you probably don't want to expand, but it's not a very strong signal. As long as you have forage, as long as you have grass availability, you may be taking a wait-and-see attitude, hoping that as these numbers continue to decline, prices will start moving up.
Which USDA is forecasting will happen next year. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Washington.
Well, congratulations are due to the Alberta beef producers on marking a 50th anniversary of the formation. Their first meeting was held September 3rd, 1969, the official beginning of the Alberta Cattle Commission. The 5 organizations were the Western Stock Growers, Alberta Dairymen Association, Farmers Union of Alberta, Alberta Federation of Agriculture, and the Alberta Cattle Breeders Association, and the ACC became the ABP on November 27, 2002. Hunters in British Columbia's Kootenay region are required now to submit deer heads for testing of chronic wasting disease following the discovery of 9 cases along the Montana border. Until November 30th, heads of mule and whitetail deer caught in the wildlife management units of 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, and 47 along the southern BC border must be submitted for testing, according to a provincial government news release. BC's Wildlife Health Program is also calling on hunters in other parts of the province, especially the Peace region, to bring deer, moose, and elk heads to drop-off locations for CWD testing. The Montana cases were confirmed in the Libby area. The first-time chronic wasting disease has been found west of the Rockies. The discovery raises concerns that deer could be moving between BC and Montana, where the disease was first found in 2017. Howard Mora, 67, and Alan Boxbaum, 65, the former owners of A. Stein Meat Products, Inc., a wholesale meat processing and distribution company, allegedly ordered their employees to cut the choice label off product and relabel it as prime between 2011 and 2014. The meat was then sold at inflated prices to customers in the New York City metropolitan area, according to the indictment. Alternative protein products may have drawn national headlines this year, but according to Drover's Cattle Network, the consumers still prefer real beef produced on real farms and ranches. That's the conclusion of a survey of about 1,800 U.S. food consumers conducted by Purdue University. The study asked consumers to make a number of simulated shopping choices. With each choice, they had 5 options: conventional farm-raised beef, a plant-based burger made with a pea protein, a plant-based burger made with animal-like protein, lab-grown meat, or they could choose not to buy any of the products. Holding the prices constant, the authors of the survey found 72% of the respondents chose farm-raised beef, 16% plant-based meat alternatives, 7% plant-based animal-like protein, and 5% meat grown in a lab. Adding brand names like Certified Angus beef, Beyond Meat, Impossible Foods, and Memphis Meats actually increased the share choosing farm-raised beef to 80%, the authors said. Consumers also strongly objected to the use of the term beef on the label of plant-based products, according to the report. Just wanted to take a moment here to mention the passing of Bill Palmer of Heffley Creek, British Columbia. You heard his stories on several programs in September, and he will be sorely missed, and we'd like to express our heartfelt condolences to the Palmer family. Well, I spent an enjoyable morning on September 23rd helping in sorting and hauling calves for our great neighbors, Bob and Suzanne Brash of the Rafter FC Ranch. And they saw their 633-pound black steer calves trade to $207.50, and their 550-pound heifers sold to $199.50 or $1.99.50 per pound. Next regular sale at the BC Livestock Producers Co-op in Kamloops is October 15th. Williams Lake Calf Sale October 16th, and the regular sale on the 17th. And October the 18th, there's a pre-sort sale at the Vanderhoof Yards. Meanwhile, at the Innisfail Auction Market, pre-sort calf sales now going on Mondays, regular sales every Wednesday, and the next horse sale is October the 19th. Get their details at BC or at Vanderhoof. Which auction are we at? Oh yeah, InnisfailAuctionMarket.com. Okay, time for the final item. And apparently, a man was talking to his rabbi, a Jewish gentleman, and he said, "I have a strong desire to live for eternity. What should I do?" And the rabbi said, "Simple, get married." "It's that simple," he said. "Would that allow me to live forever?" And the rabbi says, "No, my son, but the desire will soon disappear." And that's the Rangeland News. Coming up in the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, a listener is having some difficulty getting her good horse to do a proper side pass. And I'll tell you what works for me. And then there's more from Gary Westergaard when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Center to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Coming up on the Irvin Saddles and Western Wear Horse Training File, what might help when you're having some issues getting your horse to do a proper side pass. First, though, a few important changes to tell you about for our 2020 Spirit of the West cruise. First of all, we've made an adjustment to the date. We will board Holland America's beautiful Connings Dam for a 7-day journey to Alaska and back on the 14th of July. and this will be the final cruise that Billy and I will be hosting. We call it The Spirit of the West Brings It Home, and we're doing our very best to make this one really special. You'll start out with a visit to our place, our little ranch up here in the hills above Kamloops, the Spirit of the West World Headquarters. You'll be treated to a great live Western music show by the amazing Western Spirit Band. And if she's still around by then, you'll have a chance to meet Lucky the Wonder Horse and maybe take her picture. And from there, we'll head up to beautiful Sun Peaks Resort, where cattle still roam in the summertime, and the chairlift can take you right up to the Alpine, where the view is incredible and the wildflowers will be blooming everywhere. Next morning, we load up the coaches and head down to the incredible Fraser Canyon and overnight in Vancouver, boarding the ship the next day. The package includes the spectacular White Pass Railroad from Skagway and back, and so much more. The whole itinerary is now up on our cruise page at hugh-mclennan.com, and you can get all the details at 1-800-530-0131.
Now it's time for the Horse Training File, brought to you by Irvine Tack and Western Wear, Canada's largest Western store.
Hear that? That's what fall sounds like at Urban Tack and Western Wear. Brand new arrivals by the truckload every week. The latest fall fashions to keep you warm and toasty, plus over in the new Boot Ranch, a huge selection for cowboys and cowgirls of all ages, along with work boots, hikers, and slip-ons. And of course, no visit to Urban's is complete without a peek at their unique Western decor and collectibles. Exit 305 off Highway 2 by Crossfield.
Canada's largest Western store.
I am having trouble getting my horse to side pass. He wants to go forwards, backwards, or sideways with his body crooked. How can I get him to do it correctly? Well, if you talk to 4 different trainers, you'll probably get 4 different answers, but here's what almost always works for me. I usually find it easier working with a colt that I've started and has the foundation elements that I need. If it's an older horse that's been ridden for years but never learned to side pass properly, I might take a different approach. What I want first, though, is independent control of each foot. I need to have his shoulders supple, and with the right cue, move his right or left front foot in either direction, and then do the same with his hind feet. I want to make sure that when I'm riding in a straight line, I can get a slight bend through his body in either direction. And once that's in place, I'll ride along a rail fence and start with a haunches in exercise. That means I'll tip his head, neck, and shoulders towards the rail. Using leg pressure, move his haunches in towards the center of the pen at a slight angle while I keep him moving along the rail. Now, here's where it pays not to get greedy. Even if it's only 1 or 2 steps, I'll take the pressure off and let him go straight. I'll work in both directions for a few days, and then later, when we're out in the trail, I'll work on the same maneuver, but without using the rail fence as an aid. And once I feel that he's really getting it, we'll work on moving from one side of the trail to the other laterally instead of diagonally. And with a lot of patience and consistency, the horse will develop a real nice lateral movement, and as time goes on, he'll learn to do a 2-track, and then a true side pass where his body is straight while he steps sideways, and eventually the more difficult half pass where his head and neck point slightly in the direction of his lateral movement. I'm just thinking, though, it's a heck of a lot easier to demonstrate than to explain it. And that's the Horse Training File, brought to you by Urban Saddles and Western Wear. Something that our horses really thrive on is their daily feeding of Hoffman's Horse Ration. You can find out all about how it works and what's in it at hoffmanshorseration.com. Gary Westergaard and I will remember another legend of the working cowboy world, and this guy is still riding. And oh yeah, our classic Song of the West this week is one we dug way down in the vault for, and you might be surprised at how good it sounds even today. And you know, anything Tom Cole sings always sounds great. Red Stegall wrote this one.
I hired on Colonel Slaughter, driving steers that Abilene, green and wet behind the ears, a kid of 17. Though I was raised in Texas, I was not a seasoned hand. So I got the job of hoodlum, the Coozie's right-hand man. On the Octoer estacado, all you see is endless plains. You dread the sound of thunder, there's no shelter from the rain. Now the Coozie did a strange thing. When the evening meal was done, he'd wait until the stars came out, then point the wagon tongue. He said, son, there ain't no landmarks on these wide and rolling plains. There ain't no trees or mountains, so each day it looks the same. But you'll never lose direction, and you know just where you are if you always point your wagon tongue towards the old North Star. Out beyond the Cimarron, one cold and stormy night, I watched the cattle stampede through the lightning's eerie light. It took several days to round them up and get them settled down. We followed in the wagon through the soft and muddy ground. As we pushed the herd across the plains, we had no way to know that we had drifted way off course towards New Mexico. But that night when the stars came out, his theory stood the test. Abilene was north of us, but we were heading west. He said, son, there ain't no landmarks on these wide and rolling plains. There ain't no trees or mountains, so each day it looks the same. But you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are if you always point your wagon tongue towards the old North Star. My life has been a full one. My hair is turning gray. I've seen a lot of sunshine, but I've seen some cloudy days. For a while I wandered aimlessly, and I still wear the scars when I didn't point my wagon tongue towards the old North Star. 'Cause life is like a grassy sea, the trail ain't always plain. One may lead to pleasure and the other leads to pain. But you'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are if you always point your wagon tongue towards the old North Star. You'll never lose direction, and you'll know just where you are if you always point your wagon tongue towards the old North Star.
Gary Westergaard has ridden alongside a huge number of well-known top hands, folks highly respected in the world of full-time working cowboys, and Jake Cootley is certainly one of them.
I remember when Jake was inducted into the BC Cowboy Hall of Fame, that place was full of people that had ridden with him somewhere over the years. But yeah, the place was just rows and rows of people that had ridden with him at one time or the other. And,
I was one of them. Yeah, we'd kind of go through the.
Oh, you were there
through the grapevine.
Yeah.
We got word in Alberta that this was going to happen, and that there was a little bit of concern that maybe he'd be a little bit too shy to show up, but so that he might need some moral support. So
he got a lot of more. He sure did. Yeah, I remember he was pretty happy that night.
Yeah,
it was pretty special. I only rode with him one time, quite a few years ago now, when Trevor Thibault was forming a chaperon.
Thibault, yeah.
And did you know Trevor? He was like,
I didn't know him well, but I knew
built
him.
Like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
Anyway, he said they were moving not all, but a bunch of replacement heifers from Chaperon to English Bridge. Over 2 days, would I like to come and ride on that? And I did, and I wound up riding with right next to Jake there, and that was really an experience. Remember, they had to turn on his big open flat, all strung out. I can't remember how many, 1,100 heifers or something like that ahead of us now. Not that many riders, but enough to do it. And they had to bend to the left, and Jake I was kind of on the outside. Jake just quietly rode his horse over. Hugh, bend him that way. Yeah. That was all he said. Special memories.
Well, as the conversation went on, Gary's stories just kept getting better and more colorful, and we'll bring you more of them in the coming weeks. Coming up, this week's classic Song of the West, and it goes way back, and then the amazingly entertaining Rodney Nelson in the Cowboy Poetry Spotlight, when the Spirit of the West continues right after this. Farm Fair International returns this November 6th to 10th. Witness the future of Alberta's agriculture industry as guests from around the world gather at the Edmonton Expo Centre to buy and sell top-quality livestock, make important connections, and share knowledge. At Farm Fair, you can shop for unique holiday gifts at the Winter Marketplace or enjoy a variety of Western entertainment like the Stock Dog Trials and the Heritage Ranch Rodeo. It's a big deal to buy, sell, and connect. Plan your visit at farmfairinternational.com. Welcome back to the Spirit of the West. Followers of classic country music no doubt are familiar with Red Foley. For more than 2 decades, he was one of the biggest stars of country music, selling more than 25 million records. His 1951 hit Peace in the Valley was among the first million-selling gospel records. He's a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, and they called him one of the most versatile and moving performers of all time. And he was a big influence over many contemporary country music artists. And he struggled with alcohol, which, according to Maxine Brown and the Browns, was a well-kept secret among the entertainers because we loved him so much. And in our classic Song of the West segment, this is Red Foley with one that he recorded long before he became famous. It was recorded in 1936.
I'm on my way to Texas. I haven't got a dime. There's no use to keep on a-roaming. I'm only wasting time. I was a gay young cowboy down in my old Texas home. Now I'm a-heading back to Texas, yodeling as I go along. When I left home, they told me I was fooling around. I fell for a gal in Georgia. Her name was Jenny Brown. When I had dough, she loved me, but now my Jack is gone. I'm on my way to Texas, yodeling as I go along. No matter who you are, boys, wherever you may be, don't ever trust these women. Take this tip from me. It was swell when I had money, but now I'm all alone. Now I'm a-heading back to Texas, yodeling as I go along. For years I've been a rambler, my home I never see. I left a heartbroken mother who prays each night for me. I'm going back to be contented to my cabin home. Now I'm a-heading back to Texas, yodeling as I go along.
Rodney Nelson runs a fine cattle operation along with his wife in North Dakota, and we've had the privilege of meeting them a time or two, and his stories are absolutely priceless. He's in the live Cowboy Poetry Spotlight today with good, clean fun.
I remember making hay with my dad. We put it up loose in stacks. Dad had one of those stack frames, and he'd fill that to the max. Then sometimes, but not often, he'd say, "Rodney, you've the knack. Grab a fork, I'll lift you up, and you top off the stack." It was reluctantly I'd take that fork. He'd lift me up on top. Seemed like I'd stack that hay to 30 feet before he'd finally stop. And then he'd drive up really close. I could see him down beneath as I stepped out on the push-off on the end of those stacker teeth. He'd back up for a little ways. I hoped he'd try no tricks. But giving me rides on that farmhand was how he got his kicks. Wasn't long till I'd get mad. I'd had these rides before. He'd slide that push-off almost in, then he'd run her out once more. "Come on, Dad, let me down. This really isn't fair." Then he'd point the teeth towards the ground. Leave me dangling in the air. I could hear him laughing down below in hopeless, choking mirth, and I'd wonder if I'd ever again set my feet upon the earth. Well, it was no use to argue. He wouldn't quit till he was done, but I always wondered, how could this be so fun? Well, our yard light burned out last year. Since I'd run that farmhand all my life, I knew we could fix it in a minute if I could convince my wife. Wasn't easy to convince her. She claimed a housewife was her role. Though mad she was, she climbed aboard, took a ride to the top of the pole. I said, "Sweetheart, I'm so proud of you," when she fixed that light, "and you're especially lovely when you're angry. You really are a sight." "Let me down, you worthless cur." She was having a full-fledged fit. Well, I couldn't pass up a chance like this, so I drove around a bit. Good, clean fun. I thought to myself as she called me a hopeless sap. My grin got even wider as I made another lap. "Honey, just enjoy yourself, and isn't it a fright? It's the first time that I've carried you since our wedding night." Well, I finally shut that tractor off, let her sit up there a while. Promised her I'd let her down if she would only smile. By gosh, it was fun, but I have a problem. I can see it now, I can. Gonna take some mighty sweet talking when that light burns out again. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks again for riding along, and I sure hope you can join us right here next week at the same time. And as always, thanks to the Spirit of the West support crew, Mark and Kathy McMillan. And a belated happy birthday to Mark. Wow, is he really that old? And if you need tractor parts any make, any year, see Mark's page, bctractorparts.com. Oh yeah, and the latest issue of Canadian Cowboy Country Magazine has, among many other great articles, the story of how Billy and I penned up a stray bull and how I got it all wrong. You can subscribe at cowboycountrymagazine.com and check out the YouTube version of each Spirit of the West program and get the links to that and our podcasts at hugh-mclennan.com. Till next week, I'm Hugh McLennan. Hope to see you down the trail somewhere real soon.